Wow. So I got the chance to go hands-on for about 3 hours for the upcoming release, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This has been one of my most anticipated games of this entire year. I've kept my eye on this thing since its first reveal, and boy do I have a lot to talk about. Now just for your knowledge, this is in no way a sponsored post. They just allowed me to play a demo on my own PC at home, so I'm very thankful for the opportunity. So let's just get right into it, man, because I promise you are not going to want to miss this one. I'm just going to keep it a whole stack before I even get into the rest of this. After this demo, I do not say this lightly, this is a pre-order day one purchase for me now, and I am going to try my best to explain exactly why. So what exactly is Expedition 33, and what kind of game is it? Well, from what we know, Expedition 33, you're going after the main villain called the Paintress, who paints a number once a year and decides the fate of everyone who is that age that she paints. So everyone here is the age 33, and they are trying to break the cycle and stop the Paintress from stealing others' futures again. We don't really know a lot of more information regarding this, as I assume they're kind of want to keep this a secret for the full launch, but I can tell you I am extremely intrigued. And as far as what exactly is this game, this is an action-adventure game with what is called reactive turn-based combat. Let me tell you, I can't wait to talk about that more in just a little. Then when it comes to the story, I got to play as 3 characters in this demo. I started out with just Gustav, who's voiced incredibly well by Charlie Cox, and then I found Loon, and finally Male. The cutscenes are incredibly well voice acted. It doesn't have that like boring back and forth dialogue we see in a lot of new games released today. This feels and looks like real people talking, and I loved it. The characters are great, they had awesome chemistry, and I cannot wait to see more. My only minor complaint is that sometimes the mouths didn't like always line up perfectly with what they were saying, but again, compared to what this game gets right, this is such a minor complaint. This is from like a smaller studio, it is perfectly forgivable. Now this game's story is dark, man. There's death everywhere. It has an incredible tone to it that I just thought oozed with style. I mean, we are literally playing as characters who have less than a year to live, and that ominous worry is omnipresent throughout this entire game, which I thought was excellent. Now one thing I would like to highlight heavily, this world design is some of the coolest I have seen in quite some time, and if this game continues like this throughout its whole runtime, it is going to be genuinely something special. I got to see roughly 2 to 3 different locations here, and every single one of them stood on their own, all with their own unique elements, world design. I mean, sometimes it was just breathtaking. This game had a vision for its art style, and it's just perfect. I mean, this was like an underwater area, I mean, come on, like, look at this, it's ridiculous. It also ran great. I have a 4070 Super, and I played this in 4K 60, and I saw very minimal frame rate dips. And it seemed the cutscenes were running at about 30 FPS, both in-game and cutscenes were running very well. Now let's talk about the actual gameplay here, because there is a lot to unpack. Now, let's start off with one thing. I have never ever been one to love turn-based combat. I always prefer being in the action rather than just pressing a button and it doing it for me. But when I tell you this combat system is so incredibly fun and refreshing, I need you to understand how impressive this is. So they stated this is reactive turn-based combat, because while yes, your party does take turns attacking and defending, you'll have your regular attacks which fill up these points with every hit allowing you to do a special attack, and during these you will have to time buttons to deal additional damage. You can also use these points to freely use your gun to hit weak points before your attack. Some characters float and they can only be attacked by guns. Characters have special attacks that complement each other, like Gustav can mark an enemy for the next person to deal additional damage. I really cannot express enough how much I enjoyed the combat in this game, as someone who has never really liked traditional turn-based before. But a lot of this is due to the defense side of things. You have both a dodge, jump, and parry, and this is where things got interesting for me, because in a normal turn-based game, you would just kind of eat these attacks. But here, you actually have to learn each and every enemy's attack patterns, because doing parries specifically is so dang satisfying and extremely rewarding. Because after each successful parry, you also perform a counterattack and do ridiculous damage. But again, I found myself seriously sweating during some of these combat encounters, which again is just very unusual for a turn-based. I mean, I literally had to memorize each individual enemy's attack patterns and time this stuff perfectly. The combat also just has so much visual style and making you feel like you're a part of this sequence. It is incredible. Compare that with what is one of the most godlike soundtracks I have heard in a freaking minute. The very first battle I got into, I was jumping in my seat. God. This stuff is hype, man. And what is even cooler, it is in almost every new area, there's a new soundtrack that plays during one of these battles to kind of better fit the scene. This was really prominent in like one of these underwater levels. I don't know how to kind of explain it, but like the music kind of sounded, again, like slightly muffled, again, like we were underwater. It was really, really cool and fitting. But again, whether that's normal enemies or bosses, it is amazing. And speaking of bosses, holy crap, these things rock. Now for me in a video game, enemy types and designs are very, very important. It is part of the reason I love From Software games so much. I absolutely hate fighting these same enemies over and over again, or even just having stale looking enemies in general. But these guys have crafted some of the most unique enemies and boss designs I have seen in quite some time. And I got to fight around 3 different bosses in this demo, 2 of the main ones and 1 kind of side boss, and they all looked incredibly stunning. I cannot wait for this full game to release and see all the rest because trust me, these things were absolutely jaw-dropping and thrilling. Now dipping into another aspect of both combat is the variety. You'll actually receive levels in this game, and after defeating so many enemies and gain XP. And after every level, you gain 3 attribute points and a skill point. So you can put these into things like vitality, strength, luck, etc. And then with your skill points, you can unlock and hold up to 6 different skills per party member at one time. I thought these were all super fun, and it seemed like it was a very plentiful skill tree. And some of these jokers felt ridiculously powerful too. You even find new weapons to equip and different charms, so I thought all this was excellent. And Male even has one of the more interesting builds, as she actually has different stances like attack and defense depending on what special moves she uses. I'm telling you, the combat looks flashy and it also has great substance. This thing rocks. Now when it comes to the actual world itself, it plays out mostly pretty linear, but there was a section that did surprise me, and it actually opened up with an actual map to look at as well. The camera kind of was panned out, and then I found myself in a secret area with a secret boss that I was way too underleveled for. I did not get to explore too much of this, but at the end of this demo, it kind of led me to believe that there would be a lot more of these open sections to traverse, which I thought would be really interesting considering how much I thought this game was going to be like very, very strictly linear. I do wish I was able to get a little bit of a better idea on this aspect though, as I'm someone who is perfectly okay with extremely linear games, which is what I was kind of led to believe this was originally. But again, after this brief section, it may be a little more open than I thought. But again, not 100% sure. This game is really, really shaping up to be something special, as it seems to be from a much smaller studio. It's only retail priced at like $50 compared to the usual $70 nowadays, and this feels like $70 quality. I just could not be more excited for this game. I think if you are someone who is looking for a really good story and really great world building and design, you're going to get that here. And if you're looking for a great combat system, even if you're not usually into turn-based games, you're also going to get that here. I was already ridiculously excited for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and now I am beyond hyped for this. And it has moved up to one of my most anticipated games of 2025, and luckily, really don't have to wait much longer for this thing. I urge you to keep an eye out for this one, as I really think it is going to be something special if it finishes out like I played in this demo. Let me know what you guys think, and hopefully I should have a full review when the game launches, so make sure to subscribe for that, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.